Get that water out of the goddamn huddle. I tell you when you get a fucking water break.
Welcome to the Buccaneers Observer Podcast. This is Ralph Phillips.
I'm Molly Bay.
Today is February 18th, 2020. What's up, all you scallywags? We got a special episode for you today. We're doing the debate, pros and cons, Jameis Winston.
As if you haven't gotten enough of this already.
I know. This is what we call beating a dead horse. Well, what we're going to do tonight is one of us is going to take the side of why we should keep Jameis Winston with the Buccaneers, re-sign him. The other person is going to take the side of why we should not re-sign Jameis Winston. We've decided beforehand that Molly is going to do the pro. She's going to be why we should keep Jameis Winston and re-sign him. I am going to be doing the cons, why we should not keep Jameis Winston and re-sign him. We have not gone over anything beforehand, and the way we're going to set this up is we're going to flip a coin, see who goes first. One person, whoever goes first, gets to give their full argument. Next person gives their full argument, and then we have a lot of time at the end for rebuttals. And we will let the audience decide who won the debate.
Because who doesn't want to listen to a married couple bicker?
It's always so uncomfortable, you know? When my parents argue, I'm just like, oh gosh. And they argue nonstop
about everything.
Everything. You can't even say a sentence without them nitpicking the semantics in the sentence. It's insanity. Right.
So in case you don't get enough of that at home.
Right.
We're here for you.
Jump right into our domestic abuse. If we're lucky, there might be some punches thrown.
Ralph might cry.
Now, just to warn you, this is not necessarily our opinions.
It's my opinion.
Well, I was going to wait till the end to say what we both actually really thought. So wait till the end of the podcast. You'll find out what we each actually thought and whether it coincides with what we said. We're going to be like politicians.
No, they never come clean.
Do you have a coin to flip?
No.
We broke. We got no coins anywhere. Then we go get one. All right, we got a golden Pocahontas coin here.
That's Sacagawea.
Sacagawea, whatever.
Pocahontas.
All right, I'm going to flip it. You call it. Her face is going to be heads. The eagle's tails. If you win, you can say if you want to go first or not.
So I can elect to defer?
Yes.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Call it in there.
Heads.
Tails. My goodness. All right, I'll defer. I'll let you go first.
Dang it! I didn't want to. We all know that this quarterback class this year, especially in free agency, is so deep. I don't even want to talk about the college free agents because I don't even know any of them. We don't watch college.
Free agents in college? The drafts?
Yeah, the drafts.
The draftees.
The drafts. So we have a very deep class of free agents that could be replacements for Jameis. Now, if we can't re-sign Jameis, I would take Phillip Rivers. But other than that, there's no one in this free agent class that would necessarily be an upgrade that I think has a realistic chance of coming to the Bucs. Tom Brady, I don't think is going anywhere but New England. Drew Brees, it just came out today that he is staying in the league. I don't know if he's staying with the Saints.
Yes, he put it on Instagram.
Definitely.
He's staying with the Saints, yes.
So he's out of there. So the next best one is Phillip Rivers. And to me, he's not an upgrade over Jameis. He's a slightly older Jameis Winston who doesn't have the rapport with the team. And he's got the age on Jameis. I mean, he's a lot older. There are players like Teddy Bridgewater, who might be a serviceable replacement, but again, doesn't have the rapport with the existing team that I think is really important, and that sets Jameis apart as opposed to other quarterbacks. There's Marcus Mariota, there's Chase Daniel, Case Keenum, Chad Henne, Drew Stanton, Colt McCoy, Ryan Tannehill, any of these. No one's an upgrade. No one's better than Jameis as far as that's concerned. Aside from the free agents, I'm not a real big fan of drafting, although we did draft Jameis. I'm not a big fan of drafting rookie quarterbacks because they're so rarely successful. Of the 46 drafted since 2015 when Jameis was drafted, only 24 actually started last season. Now that is any game whatsoever. So if they started one game, they're on that list. 52% of them. The list of these starters is as follows. We had Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Sean Mannion, who started for the Vikings one game, Trevor Siemian, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, Dak Prescott, Mitch Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, Mason Rudolph, Luke Falk, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, and Will Greer. Now, a lot of these are young guys. They haven't started many games. They're unproven. A lot of these were drafted just in the last couple years, so chances are good if we look back 2-3 years from now, a lot of these are going to be out. It's just so hard to get one in the draft that's going to be consistent and really last you. From the 2015 draft, look at that. 4 players started in 2015. This year in 2019 from the 2015 draft. Marcus Mariota didn't finish the season as a starter. Jameis Winston, Sean Mannion, who only started one game, Trevor Siemian, who only started one game. So it's very hard to get one that's going to last in the draft. So I'm just not certain that we could get a quarterback either in free agency or in the draft that is going to be an upgrade from Jameis. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, being with the team since 2015, he's built a rapport with all these guys. If you look at our offense, the roster, here are all the players that we've acquired since he's been here. Rojo, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Donovan Smith, Alex Kappa, Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Peyton Barber, Scotty Miller, Brashad Perriman. It's our whole offense, basically, that we've built around Jameis Winston. And I just don't think plugging in another quarterback that you're going to get the same team and that they're going to have the same rapport that Jameis has built over the last 5 years. A lot of the players that are here now, they support him. Of course, everyone acknowledges the interceptions are a problem. But there are a lot of guys on this team that are behind him that have publicly said it, that they think he can win, that he's got what it takes to win. Levante, quote, "I see it in him. I know how great he want to be. I love to have him on the field with me." Shaq Barrett, "We still believe in him, as crazy as it sounds. We know that he can do it. Like, you see how many yards he had. We know we pass a lot, so you're going to have yards and you're going to get touchdowns, but you're going to get interceptions too if you pass a lot. It's something he can eliminate, and I know he's going to work to eliminate them." But nothing with him changed at all during the year. It just got stronger and better. His belief, his leadership, nothing wavered at all ever. Chris Godwin, "We love Jameis. That's our guy." He did also say, to be fair, "I'm glad it's not my decision." So full disclosure there. Mike Evans said, "Oh man, Jameis and I have been doing this for a while now. We obviously could have had a better season if I was able to finish it off. I feel like our connection is growing each year, and he developed a relationship with Chris Godwin now and a connection with CG that we're all going to be deadly now. We're all going to be deadly. We need to be a little more consistent, especially me, and we can do that, tune some things up in the offseason, and we'll be fine." Now, the interceptions were a problem. I'm not going to say that they weren't, but I think that they overshadow everything that he accomplished this year. He set team records for passing yards, passing and rushing yards combined, touchdowns, 300-yard games, passes attempted and completed. So he had a phenomenal season as far as Bucs quarterbacks go. He's one of the best that we've had. And the interceptions this year, I think, are an anomaly. If you look at his career, in 2015, he only had 15 interceptions. 2016, he had 18. 2017, he had 11. 2018, he had 14. In 2019, he had 30. So I think this is an outlier, the 30 interceptions, rather than the new normal. Carson Palmer even said as much because he had the same thing in Bruce Arians' system. He said it's very complicated. It takes a quarterback about a year to get used to, that a lot of times there might be a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receiver. And Carson Palmer experienced that, and his interceptions, he had a career high in Bruce Arians' first year, but then the next year, his interceptions went way down. I think the interceptions are an issue largely because we're losing. Terry Bradshaw had something similar happen in his career. He had a season where I think he went 24 touchdowns and 23 interceptions, and he said no one made a big deal about it because we won. So I think had the Bucs finished the season 10-6, 11-5, the interceptions would not have been as much of a focus. I also don't think Jameis is completely responsible for the results of 2019. Again, he had one of the best season he's had, aside from the interceptions, statistically. He did great. And there were other issues with the team. And while I don't think it's an excuse for things like the interceptions and all that, there are other factors, and it's not just the quarterback that wins the game. Our running game, again, was not where it needed to be. We had injuries on the O-line. We had injuries with the receivers. So I don't think that the results of 2019 are completely on Jameis. Byron Leftwich was play calling for the first year. I think there were some growing pains there with the system and learning the system. I think there were growing pains there between Jameis and the receiver. So I don't think it's completely on him. And my last point would be about Jameis's pay. There's been rumors that he expects $30 million, and it seems a little exorbitant to people. But I will say that the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL make between $18 million and $36 million. Now, $30 million is on the high side of that. But no matter who we get, whether we're getting a free agent or re-signing Jameis, we're going to have to pay somebody. And I just don't think we have any better options than Jameis Winston.
All right, well, there you go. Those are the cons for keeping Jameis Winston for the...
Those are the pros.
The pros. Those are the pros. They all sound like cons to me. All right, well, let's think about why we don't want to keep Jameis Winston. You brought it up, and I'm going to make that the first point, and this is going to be the thread throughout my whole argument, the interceptions. Now, Jameis Winston has always been an interception machine, even when he was at Florida State. We know that. We knew that coming into it. But he's in the professional leagues now. He's playing with the big boys. He should be putting a cap on that, and he should be getting better every year, throwing fewer interceptions that are not as deadly to the team. Unfortunately, it seems to be the other way around. Throwing 30 interceptions this year in 2019 was a record breaker, and it cost us at least 3 games. There's at least 3 games you can point to, and you can say those 3 interceptions cost us the game. He threw those interceptions. The game was over. We lost. Boom. So that's 3 games right there. But then you look at his whole career. He's got a 3.5% career average for interception rate. That's horrible. That's garbage. Last year, he had a 4.8% interception rate. That is almost unheard of. That's really, really bad. He had 7 pick sixes in 2019. 7. Now, that's in a contract year. That's when he was supposed to show, he was trying to prove that he was worth getting another contract, being the face of the franchise, and getting paid a bunch of money. That's what he did in his contract year. He threw 7 pick sixes and a interception rate of 4.8%. You brought up that, he throws a lot of interceptions because we're behind. That is correct. He only threw 4 interceptions while we had the lead last year. That's a 2% interception rate. That's fantastic. Unfortunately, the NFL, you're not going to be in the lead all the time. 19 of his interceptions were thrown while we were behind. That's a 5.5% interception rate. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is he had 7 interceptions while we were tied. That's an 8.1% interception rate. Now, you combine the two, being tied or behind, he threw 26 interceptions for a 7.4 interception rate. That's unheard of, and that you just can't have that. You can't have that. Because really what that's saying is, if we're behind, there's a good chance Jameis Winston's going to throw an interception. The only way you can keep Jameis Winston from throwing an interception is to make sure we have the lead. You don't need a quarterback like that. You need quarterbacks that can get you out of a hole. A quarterback that can, when things go bad, they can win the game for you, not lose it for you. So we'll get back to his interceptions here in a moment, but then I want to bring up something else. Let's talk about his character for a moment. I know this is probably not a good thing to say, but Jameis Winston has a long, long history of being a screw-up. I'm just going to go through some of this stuff real quick. November 25th, 2012, a woman calls 911 to report that there are two men on a bike path at Florida State University campus with what appears to be a black long-barreled pistol. Police respond with their guns drawn as they approach Jameis Winston and his teammate, Chris Casher, who was also his roommate at the time, and ultimately handcuffed them. The two tell the officer they were shooting at squirrels with a pellet gun, and they were released without being charged. A few hours after the incident on the bike path, Winston, Casher, and two other Florida State players, Mario Edwards and Kenneth Williams, allegedly engaged in a BB and pellet gun battle at their apartment house, inflicting an estimated $4,000 in damage. Management at the apartment house declines to press criminal charges after an FSU athletic official vows that the players will pay for the damage. Whether they did or not, I don't know. December 7th, 2012, Winston is accused of raping a woman at his off-campus apartment. The woman reports the assault to police that day and 5 weeks later calls a detective and identifies Winston as her attacker after seeing him in a class. Tallahassee police dropped the investigation, contending the woman has refused to cooperate, then revive it 9 months later and sent it to State Attorney Willie Meggs. Meggs conducts a new investigation but concludes that there is not enough evidence to file criminal charges. Winston's lawyer contends the sexual encounter was consensual. The U.S. Department of Education later launches a federal investigation into the school's handling of the incident after questions arise about whether Florida State followed the provisions of Title IX, and in August 2014, the school launches an investigation of Winston under the Student Code of Conduct. July 23, 2013, Winston is accused of entering a Burger King in Tallahassee and helping himself to soda from the fountain machine without paying for it. A restaurant employee later tells police she gave Winston a cup of water, but that he poured the water out and helped himself to several cups of soda despite her objections. No charges were filed. April 29, 2014, Winston is accused of stealing $32.72 worth of crab legs from a Tallahassee supermarket. He is given a civil citation that allows him to perform community service and is suspended from the FSU's baseball team until he completes that work. Winston tells police that he, quote, forgot to pay for the crab legs and publicly apologizes. May 20th, 2014, Winston is expected at a code of conduct hearing for Chris Casher and Ronald Darby, two FSU teammates who alleged the witness a portion of the sexual encounter involving the quarterback and the woman who accused him of rape. They are both accused of violating school rules. Winston does not show up for the hearing, and his lawyer contends that no one from the school ever asked him to be there, something that is disputed by attorneys involved in the process. However, FSU officials later acknowledge that they have no way to force a witness to attend a code of conduct hearing. September 16, 2014, Winston is seen by several students jumping up on a table on campus and screaming a sexually charged, explicit-laced phrase that was made popular on the internet. FSU head football coach Jimbo Fisher suspends Winston for the first half of the team's upcoming game with Clemson, and school officials vow that he will be subject to internal discipline, most likely under the school's code of conduct. Winston apologizes. October 13, let me catch my breath. October 13, 2014, ESPN reports that FSU's compliance department is investigating whether Winston accepted money in exchange for autographs. The university's athletic director issues a statement on October 17 explaining that the compliance staff looking into whether Jameis Winston accepted unauthorized benefits for his autograph has no information indicating that he accepted payments for items reported to bear his signature, thereby compromising his athletics ability. March 2016 in Scottsdale, Arizona, an Uber driver accused Jameis of grabbing her crotch. Winston was suspended 3 games in the NFL while he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to start the 2018 season. February 2017 at Melrose Elementary School in St. Petersburg, Florida, talking to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students, Winston said, quote, all my young boys stand up. The ladies sit down. But all my boys stand up. We strong, right? We strong. We strong, right? All my boys tell me one time I could do anything I put my mind to. Now, a lot of boys aren't supposed to be soft-spoken. You know what I'm saying. One day y'all going to have a very deep voice like this. One day you'll have a very, very deep voice. But the ladies, they're supposed to be silent, polite, gentle. My men are supposed to be strong. I want y'all to tell me what the 3rd rule of life is. I can do anything I put my mind to. Scream it. End quote. This became a national media story, mainly due because of the strong feminist movement and the Me Too movement that was going on at the time. November 7, 2017, Mike Evans, the elite wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was suspended for shoving Saints cornerback Marshawn Lattimore after Winston poked Lattimore, causing a shove by Lattimore against Winston. Evans retaliated against Lattimore and caused him to get suspended. Winston was pulled from that game due to injuries and was out for the next 2 games. Now, December 24th, 2017, Winston against Carolina had to be dragged off the field yelling at refs over a fumble. Then he ran back on the field while the Carolina offense was on the field. When he ran out on the field, he knocked over a Buccaneers official who was standing on the sideline, and Winston had to be pulled off the field again by his teammates. Now, I say all of that, not necessarily to say that Winston's a bad guy, or that any of this stuff is true, or means he shouldn't be in the NFL, or anything of that. It's just going to show to me that Winston gets away with stuff. He gets away with things. He's the first pick in the draft. He's now getting millions of dollars to play in the NFL. He's done a lot of stuff that would get a lot of people into a lot of trouble, but he seems to get out of it relatively unscathed. Now, Winston has started 70 of 80 Buccaneer games in 5 seasons. He has missed 10 games in 5 seasons due to injuries, suspensions, and poor performance. That comes out to 13% of Buccaneers games Jameis Winston has missed. Some of those due to behavior issues. So Jameis Winston is getting a lot of money. He seems to be able to do things that most people can't do, and he doesn't seem to get in trouble for them a whole lot. The Lattimore experience was one thing. He pushed Lattimore. Lattimore turns around, push him. Mike Evans comes blazing in to take up for his quarterback. Mike Evans gets suspended. It just seems like Winston has a long track record of doing stupid stuff and never really having to pay the consequences for them. Now, Bruce Arians claims he is a coach of accountability. I do not see how it will be possible for Bruce Arians to allow a quarterback who has thrown 30 interceptions, who has lost us at least 3 games. We can say that without any question. Lost us at least 3 games single-handedly. They were Winston's fault. Lost us at least 3 games through 30 interceptions. How he cannot hold Jameis Winston accountable for those things. I do not see how that would be a good thing to do. This would be falling right in Jameis Winston's behavior issues if we reward him for doing dumb stuff. Also, we're looking at paying Jameis Winston a minimum of $26 million probably. I mean, that's like the minimum. That's if we get by with a good contract. That's expensive for a gunslinger who's only had 1 winning season in the NFL and no playoff appearances. His winning season came in 2016. He was 9-7. It's not like he was tearing it up. The Bucs are 28-42 with Winston under center. That's absolutely horrible. Reports are that Winston is seeking $30 million a year. That's way too much money to pay for somebody who has never sniffed the playoffs. He got paid $21 million in 2019 with the Bucs picking up his 5th-year option. It was a show me year, and he showed us. I'd hate to see what it would look like if he gets paid $30 million. He'll probably give us 40 interceptions. In 2019, opponents scored 112 points off Winston's turnovers. 112 points. That's more than most teams score all year. That's what opponents scored just off Winston's turnovers. Like I said, he threw 7 pick sixes alone. That's 50 points right there almost. Now, whether we like it or not, Jameis Winston is the leader of this franchise. Teams mold themselves in the habits of their leaders, whether they do it consciously or subconsciously. And I don't really particularly want a team filled with guys that make great plays, great stats, but don't pull through when it counts. And they make huge mistakes and never have to pay the price for it. To me, that's what Jameis Winston brings as a leader. It almost seems as though Jameis is more concerned with acting like he can handle the losing than he's concerned with actually not losing. Let's get into some of his performance issues on the field. Jameis Winston does not read the field well. If you watched any of my videos, I show almost every game. There's multiple instances where he does not see wide open receivers. He just doesn't even see them. And that has got to be frustrating not only to the coaching staff, but to the receivers who get open. He makes too many poor decisions. Most of his interceptions were bad decisions. If you watch the breakdown I did of all of his interceptions for 2019, it's plainly obvious that he just makes a lot of bad decisions. He runs outside the pocket too much. He gets happy feet. I think he was sacked 47 times this year or something like that. It was a ridiculous amount. A lot of those were due to him running into pressure. Now, we've got a lot of people on this team that I really, really like, and they're going to cost us a lot of money to re-sign. Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Golston, Rashard Perriman. You know, there's a whole list of people that I would really like to see come back. All of them, to be honest with you, all of them. Jameis Winston, if he gets a $30 million contract, we are not going to be able to sign everybody. If we get rid of Jameis Winston and we get a cheap free agent or draft a quarterback, we'll be able to keep everybody on this team except Jameis Winston. So we're looking at keeping Jameis Winston, losing a couple of good players, or ejecting Jameis Winston, keeping everybody. Now, Winston does not seem to have developed at all, if you ask me. Since his rookie year to now, he looks like the same guy. He's still the same quarterback, making the same mistakes as when he was a rookie. I mean, he's the worst quarterback to ever throw 5,000 yards in a season. I think there's, 7, 8 quarterbacks that have done it in the NFL. Jameis Winston is at the bottom. He is the top. He's the bottom of the top. Now, we talk about drafting a quarterback and how much of a crapshoot it is. It's not with Bruce Arians. Every rookie quarterback Bruce Arians has ever drafted has gone on to be elite level quarterbacks. We're talking about Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger. He's got away with drafting quarterbacks and fashioning rookie quarterbacks. He was brought here, he says, in large part because he thought he could develop Jameis Winston. I don't know if he feels that way now, especially if you see his press conferences. He's kind of down on Jameis Winston, especially after that last interception that ended the season. We know that Bruce Arians can develop rookie quarterbacks, and he had a hand in deciding to draft Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger. So the guy knows what he's looking for. If we let Arians handpick a rookie quarterback, I think that would be a smart move. And this is the only opportunity we're going to have to do this. Keeping Winston another year on a franchise tag means we could be prolonging the agony. And we could also run Arians out of town doing that. Now, the Bucs are well geared for a rookie quarterback. I mean, we got a talented wide receiver core, good tight ends, an established O-line, and a really good monstrous defense. That's what a rookie quarterback needs. Winston didn't have that when he came here, and it might have hurt his development. But we've got it now. It'd be the perfect time to have a rookie quarterback come in and fill those shoes. Now, I brought up the whole stuff about Jameis Winston's character, not because I want to say that he's a bad player, he shouldn't be in the NFL, blah, 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 any of that mess. It's because of this. Out of thousands of entries, 32 kids were chosen to wear their favorite player's football jersey and run out onto the field ahead of Super Bowl 54 in Miami. We had a guy in St. Petersburg named Eric. The boy was chosen to go out there and do that. When asked what his favorite player was, he chose Shaquille Barrett's jersey with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shaquille Barrett is bringing fans to the Buccaneers. People like him. They like that he performs well on the field. They like his character. They like his personality. He's not a troublemaker. You cannot say that about Jameis Winston. I mean, here it is. Jameis Winston has been our quarterback for 5 years. This kid decides to go out and check Barrett's jersey, who's only been here for a year. I mean, that's not a testament. That's more of a testament to how good Shaq Barrett is than it is to Jameis Winston. But Jameis Winston is not the kind of player that's going to bring people to the Buccaneers. He's exciting to watch, but it's mainly the same reason why watching a car wreck is exciting to watch. Anytime I talk about football with strangers, I tell them I'm Buccaneers fans, always have to defend Winston. Always. Every single time. That's the first thing they bring up. And it never fails that they bring him up in a negative light. Nobody ever goes, oh, that Jameis Winston, I really like him. He's a good quarterback, good guy, blah, blah, blah. It's always, man, what are y'all going to do with this guy? Or, I don't like him because of his past behavior or whatever. Winston is not bringing fans to the Buccaneers fan base, and he's causing fans to have to defend their fandom. That gets exhausting. But it's not just new fans that Winston is hurting. He's divided the fan base. He's divided this fan base right down the middle like no player I've ever seen. There are people that can't stand Winston, and there are people that, they back Winston. Of course, I think the Winston backers are being much more quiet now because of the performance this year, but there is a division there, and you don't want that in your own fan base. But with all that being said, we're going to wrap this up. Here's my number one biggest argument as to why I think we should not re-sign Jameis Winston. This question was posed to us by somebody on Twitter, and it has stuck in my craw ever since, but is, do we think that we could make a run to the playoffs with Jameis Winston at quarterback? And I would have to say no. And that's the number one reason. I don't think he could string together 4 or 5 straight games of winning. And, when he gets to the playoffs, it's a whole different beast. You have to be on point. You have to be sharp. And if your quarterback is, not playing at his best, you're going to lose and you're out. And I just do not see Jameis Winston making it through the playoffs and to the championship and winning. I just don't see it. I don't think I've ever seen him do 4 games in a row where he's played well. Don't know. So that's my number one reason for why we should not keep Jameis Winston. There. Done. Those are the cons.
Well, I think you've just convinced the whole fan base to get rid of Jameis, so well done, Ralph.
Oh, no.
I hope you're happy.
All right. You got some rebuttals for me here, and go ahead.
I do.
Can we talk to...
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just go back and forth with the
Go back and
rebuttals.
forth.
Nah.
We'll have a conversation.
Yeah. She's already mad at me, I can tell. This is going to be a fight after we get off the podcast.
Well, first of all...
She's got her finger up.
I got a finger up and everything. Let's go with the interceptions first, because that's what you started with. Just go in chronological order for my 5 pages of notes.
She was just right. I could see the pen was like ripping the paper.
Okay, so the interceptions, not the only thing costing us games.
This is true.
We had the kicking.
That's true.
The defense at times.
Yes.
So, yes, the interceptions, 3 games, but how many were also on the kicker?
Right.
3?
I'd say 2 for sure.
Okay, so between Jameis Winston's 3 games for the interceptions, 2 with the kicking, that accounts for
and then
half of our losses.
Yeah, I'd say at least 4 on our secondary before they got their crap together.
So, again, it's not just Jameis. It goes back to my point.
Right.
There were other reasons that we lost besides Jameis. Again, the interceptions wouldn't be an issue if we were winning. We wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't say, oh, we lost 3 games because of Jameis's interceptions. No one would give a shit. This is a contract year for Jameis, and I did expect him to show up a little bit better than he did. However, we also had someone in the 2018 season that was in a contract year that played like absolute garbage, that we trashed the whole offseason when he got a contract, and that was Donovan Smith. And he came into 2019, had a phenomenal season.
Good point.
Really turned it around. Point Molly.
That's a good point.
The character issues, most of what you named was when Jameis was in college. How much dumb shit did we all do in college?
Yes.
But between the age of 18 and 21, we all did some really stupid stuff. There were...
Since he's been in the NFL, he has...
No issues.
The Uber incident happened in 2015 or 2006.
I don't know.
But anyhow, he's got a kid now, he's married. That changes you.
It does change you. There were 2 things on the field where you said... The one at the Carolina Panthers game where he was arguing with the refs and went out on the field and came back. And then the fight that got Mike Evans suspended. To me, I don't have an issue with those. I like the passion on the field, and character issues off the field, I just don't give a crap about. As we've talked about before.
Right.
They have no bearing on what happens on the field. I do think it's a fair point what you were saying with the accountability. How can Bruce Arians not hold him accountable for these 30 interceptions?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to give him $30 million about somewhere in that area after doing that. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's like that's a hard pill to swallow if you're preaching accountability.
Right, but it was with Donovan too.
Yeah, right.
And you're preaching accountability, but there's no other way to hold him accountable other than firing him. And is that really as far as you want to take it?
Right.
If you're a BA, if you're Jason Light, if you're thinking about the future of the franchise. The salary is a big number, but unfortunately, the salaries in the NFL are dictated by the market. They're not dictated by wins and losses necessarily. So the Bucs are kind of between a rock and a hard place as far as that goes, because there is a range where Jameis is expecting and what's reasonable in the market and what he could probably get with another team.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's probably going to get, he's going to get $26 million minimum. There's no getting around that. He probably would get $30 million at another team, to Cleveland or the Jets. Well, these dumb franchises. Or the Panthers. Who knows what they're going to do with Cam.
Yeah. But the price is also maybe driven down because of how many free agents there are.
That's true. That's a good point.
The market could fluctuate downward that way.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a bad year to be a quarterback in free agency, I think.
Right, and I think in that way the Buccaneers have a little more leverage over Jameis.
Yeah.
Opponent scored 112 points off of turnovers, and we still won 7 games. Wow. Reading the field, Jameis obviously has issues with that. That's been a knock on him that you've said for years. But he got LASIK this year, so we might as well try out those new eyeballs. If we sign a new quarterback to replace Jameis, who's to say that they won't have interception problems as well? It is a hallmark of Jameis Winston, I'm not saying that. But it is also a hallmark of this offense. So who's to say that a new quarterback would do any better in that regard?
Right. You draft a rookie quarterback, put him in Arians' offense. First year, he's going to throw a lot of interceptions.
Or even a player like Phillip Rivers, who he's interception prone too.
Yeah. Phillip Rivers would throw a crap ton of interceptions.
Jameis Winston is a very polarizing figure in the fan base, but I think through the NFL overall. 2 points I would make about that. I don't know if it's unique to our fan base, but it does seem that we have these divisive figures that people tend to be on one side of the other. One player that comes to mind is, or former Buccaneer, is Greg Schiano. That one was a mess.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's necessarily Jameis or it's a nature of an NFL fan base.
Or if it's just a Tampa thing.
Or a Tampa thing.
One of the things with Jameis Winston, why the fan base hates him, or some part of the fan base, because he's from Florida State University.
Right.
You know, a lot of these people down in Florida are fans of, Miami or, some of the other Florida teams down there, and they can't stand Florida State University. So anybody that comes to Florida State University, they're going to dislike.
Right. And it seems to me that most NFL quarterbacks have a large contingent of fans that hate them. Like if you look at Tom Brady, there's a lot of people that hated him. Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger is called Ben Raplesberger. Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. Quarterbacks tend to be very divisive. Yeah. So I don't think it's unique to Jameis Winston necessarily. The character issues also, Jameis Winston is not the first quarterback to be accused of having character issues. Again, Ben Roethlisberger. Mm-hmm. Peyton Manning even was accused of sexual misconduct by a personal trainer. It's everybody. I think it is the nature of the beast for those to come out. As an NFL quarterback, you're under increased scrutiny.
Yes.
So people look for that stuff. And lastly, the playoff issue is a tricky one because you really do never know. You just never know. But it could go either way, and I would just like to see Jameis get us that far and then try him out in the playoffs and see what happens. You can get a phenomenal quarterback that does great in the regular season, and then they get to the playoffs and they shit the bed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at you, Matt Ryan. There are so many that just choke in the playoffs. So what if we have a quarterback that just chokes in the regular season and then plays lights out in the playoffs?
Yeah,
you never know.
The playoffs are a totally different beast, man. And you're gonna, the referees act different. The atmosphere is different. The players play different. Everything's different. So it could. You're right. It could be. Jameis Winston might go out there, and that might be his bread and butter, just being in the playoffs. Then again, we saw him in the championship.
Yes.
And the college championship, and he did not perform well.
He played like garbage. What was it, 5 interceptions?
It was
Little did we know that was going to be a regular feature.
All right, so I got just a few rebuttals for you. You talked about the rookie quarterbacks as basically a crapshoot. You called out some names. There were 3 names in there in particular that I would like to point out. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Carson Wentz. Now, they're a crapshoot, yes. Then you never know what you're going to get. But when you do hit on one, you're looking at Super Bowls. You're looking at a long time of having a very good quarterback that's going to get you a lot of championships. And I think those 3 quarterbacks, well, 2 of them anyhow, are going to rack up multiple Super Bowls. But the big thing with those 3 is that they do not lose games. The team might lose, but those 3 guys are not going to lose you games. If anything, they'll manage a game. They might play bad, but they ain't going to lose it for you. Whereas with Winston, he will lose you games. At least 3 a year, it seems like. And if you have a team that is good, you just need a quarterback that is not going to lose games. Basically a game manager. It's nice to have the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, but if you get a Carson Wentz, or a Jared Goff, these guys that can just not make a whole lot of mistakes, then you can go to the Super Bowl and win. Or at least go. I've always said, this is back to the whole playoff stuff again, it's much better to never go to the Super Bowl than to go to the Super Bowl and lose. Buccaneer fans have never experienced that, but I've known a lot of fans that have. It's not good. And the teams that go to the Super Bowl and lose rarely make it back within like a decade. I mean, it's a kick in the nuts. And it's just you got the Super Bowl hangover or whatever you want to call it, Super Bowl curse. It's just really hard to get back. It's embarrassing, especially if you lose like Atlanta did. 28-3, what? So, you want a quarterback that when you get to the Super Bowl, you're going to win. Second point, yes, the offense has been built around Jameis Winston. We've got excellent players. We've got Michael Evans. We've got Chris Godwin. We've got Brashard Perriman. We've got, who's the little guy? Scotty Miller. I like him. We got the good offensive line. I think they're above average. People would argue about that, but I mean, they're not the best in the world, but they're pretty decent. They're stable now. And we've got all these guys have been drafted or brought in to help Jameis Winston. Unfortunately, I feel like what he's taught them, like Mike Evans, has taught them how to lose. We're a losing franchise, and we're just continuing to lose and lose and lose, even though we've got these super weapons, man. And we've got this super defense. We should not be losing, and we are. And I think that's, leadership. I think Winston has something to do with that. It's just the mentality of, like I said earlier, it's like he's more proud of the fact that he can lose and not let it bother him than not losing in the first place.
I would argue that we were losing before Jameis got here.
This is true. Yeah, it's a losing culture in Tampa Bay. It's something that us fans have to get over, and it's hard. It's hard. It starts with us, and the coach. I think he's he come in. He doesn't have a losing mentality. This guy Bruce Arians does not lose. I mean, he's had what? He's been in the NFL for almost 30 years, and he's had like 2 losing seasons, something like that. I can't remember. Go back in our podcast. We did all the stats. He hasn't had a lot of losing seasons. The guy just doesn't know what losing means. And now here it is. He's facing a city, a fan base, a team, ownership, everything that we just don't know how to win. Got loser mentalities. So it's a hard hill to climb. All right, so there's our rebuttals. Now, what do you really think? This is just us talking. That we did this pros and cons because we wanted to basically just get the argument out there for everybody and come up with as much stuff as we could to cover both sides of it. But what do you really think? What do you really feel?
People point to the interceptions because it is a tangible. Albeit it's a very noticeable, tangible, but it's not the only thing there. People like the numbers because they can point to this and go, this is why we lose. I just don't think that the interceptions are the full story. I don't think that they should define Jameis. I don't think that they should define his season last year because he did so much more. There's more to him than the interceptions. And it's an anomaly. It was an anomaly last year. I do think it will get better. It's an outlier. And I think that consistency is so important. We have lacked that for so long.
So long.
And I just don't feel like continuing to try to put pieces in is going to work. It hasn't worked thus far. It's not fantasy football. You can't just take one player that you feel needs to be upgraded and put another one in that you think is better and expect the whole system to be fixed. It just doesn't work that way. There's too many other variables. So to me, the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't know. We know what we're getting with Jameis Winston, and I think BA, with continuing to work with him and Byron Leftwich being involved as well, they can figure out a way to mitigate those interceptions.
I agree. I know I was the con argument, but I don't want Jameis Winston gone. I would love to see him stay. The biggest issue I have is the money. If we keep Jameis Winston, we're going to have to get rid of probably 2 really good players just to keep Jameis Winston. And there's nobody on this team that I want to get rid of. I mean, nobody. This is a really good team. I like everybody on this team. I like our backups, especially our defensive line. Taco and all those guys. Nacho. Taco. That's how it is when I go to a Mexican restaurant. I don't know the difference between a burrito, a taco, or nothing. It's just horrible. I don't want to get rid of anybody, man. And, if you were to ask me, if you were to come up to me right now and say, okay, we're going to get rid of Jameis Winston and keep everybody else on the team, or we're going to keep Jameis Winston and get rid of JPP and Nacho, I would have a really hard time with that. I don't think I could do it. I think I'd say get rid of Jameis Winston. But again, like you brought up, it's the devil you know. I mean, we know what Jameis Winston is, and I do believe he's going to get better. And I'm really excited that he got LASIK. I think he's probably known he's had vision problems, but you can't get LASIK until you're like 25 or so. At least they say don't get it. You don't want to get any type of eye surgery before you're basically stopped growing.
And your prescription has to be stable.
Yeah, so now, Jameis Winston might be a totally new quarterback. And we know the guy could sling the rock. We know he's a gunslinger. We know he wants to win. That's the thing that turned me on about Jameis Winston. Because when we first drafted him, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy. Because we had watched the college championship game where it looked bad. And I watched some tape on him, and I was like, man, this guy is just not. He had bad form. He just took too many chances. And I was like, this is not going to turn out well. But then it was against that Atlanta game where it was a 3rd and 13, and Jameis Winston ran the ball, and he ran right into like 5 Falcon defenders. One of them was Adrian Claiborne. They had him wrapped up, but he got out of that mess and ended up getting that first down. And, he fought hard for that. And I was like, that's the kind of attitude I want on this team, because at that point we did not have that attitude. And I think he's given that type of attitude to the team, because you see guys doing some crazy stuff. Perriman, for instance, just making crazy catches, and our running backs diving over people and hurdling and trying to get across the goal line, and to look at our defense, some of the crazy stuff they've been doing. It's just like, I think they have an attitude that they want to win, and they get that straight from Jameis Winston, because he's got that attitude. He does not like losing. I was saying that earlier about maybe Jameis Winston has the attitude that he wants to act like he can handle losing better than he is good at winning. But I don't really believe that. I think that Jameis Winston has he's learned to lose, and that's a real large part of sports. But he's not a loser. He wants to win. You learn to lose. Be a good loser, but keep your eyes focused on winning. That's what's important. But no, I don't want Jameis Winston gone. I don't want anybody on this team gone. And I'm with you. I don't think there's anybody out there that we know is going to be an upgrade to Jameis Winston. Nobody. And even Tom Brady. If Tom Brady were to come to Buccaneers, we would have to change our whole offense.
Well, and that's the whole question that the NFL has been contemplating since the rise of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Which one is it? Is it Tom Brady or is it Bill Belichick?
We don't know.
I don't really want to take that gamble.
I don't want to take that. Yeah, that's a gamble just
because I think it's Belichick. I don't think Tom Brady's a slouch, but...
No, Tom Brady's got really good qualities, really good superior elite level things, his pocket presence, his decision making, all that. But he's not going to be gunning it down the field 40, 50 yards, 7, 8 times a game.
He's never had receivers like Mike Evans. I mean, he had Randy Moss, but that hasn't been a hallmark of his career, is having these stud receivers.
No. And, our offense is designed, and this is a characteristic of Bruce Arians' offense. Our offense is designed where your quarterback's going to take a lot of hits. You got to have a tough quarterback, and Tom Brady he's not used to taking hits. One thing you can always say about New England Patriots, they always had a top level offensive line. So bringing Tom Brady in here is really not even a question for me. I mean, it'd be great to have the GOAT, but you'd have to change everything about our offense, and that's just not going to happen. So, is there anybody in there that can step into Jameis Winston's shoes right now and perform better? I don't see it. I just don't see anybody that could do it. If people talking about Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think he has the toughness, for one, and two, I don't think he could sling it down the field as much.
I mean, he's got an arm, but... And
you also got to remember what we were worried about coming into this season. We were worried about our offensive line, worried about a running game, worried about having a pass defense.
And the secondary.
Right, and as it turns out, those weren't really things to worry about. And, now our secondary is really, really good. It took them half the season to get that together, but once they did, man, they were fantastic. And like you said, we didn't lose. Jameis Winston wasn't the reason why we lost all those games. In the first part of the year, Jameis Winston played great. he didn't make a lot of bad mistakes and everything. It was towards the second half of the year where he started messing up, but that's when the defense started playing good. And that's how you want a team to be when one person's not playing well. You want the other team to compliment them. And, we had that horrible schedule at the beginning of the season, and we started off in a hole. And, that we made it to 7-9 is really a testament to how good this team and coaching staff is. No, I don't want to get rid of Jameis Winston. But if you do and you want to use my arguments, feel free. I've never seen anybody with the Buccaneers. We've always had issues with our quarterbacks. Always. As a matter of fact, when I first became a Buccaneer fan, one of the first things I remember was being on the news groups fighting with everybody about Trent Dilfer. Everybody wanted to get rid of Trent Dilfer, and I was like, no, he's exactly what we need. We got a great defense. We just need a game manager. He's tough. He wants to win, blah, blah. Basically the same stuff we got going on now. But, Jameis Winston has just divided this fan base like nobody I've ever seen on the Buccaneers. I mean, we've had players that some people didn't like and all that, but now it's like either you're adamantly against Jameis Winston and you want him gone, you hate him, or you're like, okay. The supporters have been really quiet this offseason so far.
I think you just don't know. I think a lot of people are just kind of wait and see.
That's how I am. I really feel like I trust what they're going to do. No matter which way they go, I think it's going to be probably the right decision. I mean, they know more than we do. And if they were to get rid of Winston and decide to draft somebody, I would be comfortable with that. I wouldn't like it, but I'd be comfortable with it.
I didn't really think about that point until you brought it up, how BA has drafted these quarterbacks, and you forgot Peyton Manning. I can't believe it.
I knew there was
such an
one
oversight.
More. Yeah.
You should have led with that one, not Andrew Luck.
I couldn't remember who it was. I knew there was one other really great quarterback.
Right, he was instrumental in the
drafting
Ryan Leaf or Peyton Manning, and he went out and visited both. It's all in the book. And Ryan Leaf, what was it? He had so many issues that BA was just like, he's not the right decision.
I think it was Ryan Leaf got really frustrated when he threw interceptions. I think it was the big thing that Bruce. Don't quote me on that. But it was more Ryan Leaf's attitude that didn't sit well with Bruce Arians. And that's one of the things Bruce Arians says in his book. He doesn't mind when a quarterback throws an interception, but you have to be a leader of the team and realize that the next play is what's important. And don't dwell on it. Don't pout about it. What was it he said? Tears and snot. Oh, what was it?
I can't remember.
Oh, my gosh. Bubble, snot, and tears will never win games. Or some crap like that. Yeah, it's a great quote. But he says what he looks for in a quarterback, because what Jameis Winston does, and he's always done, is when he throws an interception, he's the first guy trying to tackle the guy.
Yeah.
And that's what Jameis Winston does. If you watch the game film, man, Jameis Winston, he throws that interception, man, he's blazing down the field trying to get the guy. And I think Ryan Leaf was not a character like that. But yeah, so Bruce Arians knows how to develop rookie quarterbacks. There's no question about that. And he could do it. And if we're going to do it, this is the time to do it. So if they did it, I would be like, okay, I trust them. I'd hate it. I would.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, me neither. It's such a crapshoot. Josh Freeman.
Well, it just takes a while to really develop him. It's kind of the sunk cost. I guess it's kind of the sunk cost fallacy with Jameis too.
Yeah.
We've already put all this into him. We've invested this much. Why'd start over?
Well, we could franchise him, but there's reports out there that Jameis Winston's saying through his agent that he would not be very happy with the franchise. But then again, we're not really happy with you throwing 30 interceptions, Jameis. So, deal with the hand that's dealt you. But I wouldn't be upset with that. Franchise Jameis, sign Shaq, get everybody else signed. Let's just move on next year and let Jameis show us what he's got with his new eyeballs.
I agree. A franchise is basically as good as a one-year contract, right?
Yes.
Because we could do something like what we did with Donovan, give him 1 or 2 years and see what happens.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we do sign Jameis. It'll probably be, 50, 60 million guaranteed over 2 years. The way we set up our contracts, we're very good with that. We front load all of our contracts. So, it would be basically the same thing as franchising him for 2 years.
Right.
But if we could get him for 25, 26 million for 2 years, I'd be fine with that too. But 30 million, whew.
You could build incentives into his contract that are like, you can't throw more than 15 interceptions.
I don't know if he'd sign that.
Yeah, I don't know.
He likes his interceptions. All right, well, there's some news that's going on out there in the Bucs world, but we'll save that for our next podcast. As we did mention, Drew Brees is staying with the New Orleans Saints. He announced it on Instagram a couple hours ago. Actually, we could say a little bit of news here real quick. I'll just go ahead and get the news that I got so far. It's only a couple things. Ron Rivera had a yard sale getting rid of all of his Panthers gear.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he did it and gave it to charity.
Oh, that's better than the dirt cutter treatment.
I know, just threw it in the trash.
Yeah.
But he gave it to a dog shelter, I think animal shelter charity. So there's that. So the Ron Rivera era is done in Carolina. There was an article on MWT Sports Media about Taysom Hill. And it was a really good argument, or a really good article that had a really good argument about why Taysom Hill is not going to be a good franchise quarterback. And this guy brought up a lot of good stuff that I didn't know, mainly about his injury history. He's got real bad injury history. So if you want to read up on Taysom Hill, who me and Molly have both said that he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and he is a beast. But this article here contradicted what we said, and it's kind of made me think a little bit. But I watched Taysom Hill in the preseason, and I thought I was watching Drew Brees. I mean, he throws just like him. He's got all the same mannerisms, the same decisions. I went like a whole quarter before I realized it was Taysom Hill playing and not Drew Brees. Because I was sitting there going, why do they have Drew Brees playing this late into
They are built like exactly the same.
Yeah, and he makes the same decisions. He's like really made for that system. And I think Sean Payton has really put a lot into Taysom Hill to get him geared up to be the next Drew Brees. He's going to be better than Drew Brees, if you ask me, because of his athletic ability. But this guy at the sportsmedia.com, or MWT Sports Media, whatever that is, had a really good article. So if you want to, go check it out. The title of it is Taysom Hill, Fool's Gold as a Quarterback. So put that in the search engine and go check it out and read up on that guy. Maybe we'll talk more about that in the next podcast.
The former Buccaneer Adarius Taylor lost his job at Cleveland.
Or formerly known as Adarius Glanton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always liked him.
At Cleveland?
Cleveland. He was at Cleveland, played last year, and now he's gone.
Wow, he'll probably be out of the NFL there. It seems like that's what happens, man. If you can't make it on the Cleveland roster, then you ain't going to be in the NFL much longer.
So that's all I've got for news.
Man, sorry to hear that. I liked Taylor. He seemed like a good guy.
Maybe he'll be a backup somewhere.
Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us, you scallywags. Till next time.
Go Bucks.